Sometimes the loudest person in the room isn't the strongest. Sometimes the one who smiles the widest is the one who is hurting the most. And sometimes, the person who looks unshakable, unbothered, almost impossibly confident, is holding themselves together with threads so thin that even a single moment of truth could tear them apart. Confidence is beautiful. But fake confidence, that quiet, complicated mask people wear, is something deeper, something more human, something that reveals not power, but longing. And if you look closely, it tells a story most people never notice. There's a strange irony in today's world. We live in a time when people feel pressured not only to be confident, but to appear confident constantly. Social media feeds reward the ones who act like they have everything figured out. Society applauds assertiveness, dominance, self-assurance. So people learn to fake it, not always to deceive others, but sometimes just to survive. Sometimes people pretend to be confident because they fear they won't be loved without it. Sometimes they pretend because the world rarely gives space to the vulnerable. And sometimes they pretend because it's the only way they know how to keep standing. But behind fake confidence, there is always a story. You can see it in the way someone laughs a little too loudly, as if trying to drown out the sound of their own insecurities. You can feel it in the way someone boasts about themselves constantly, not to impress you, but to convince themselves. You notice it in the person who always has an opinion, who always talks first, who never lets silence settle, because silence is dangerous. Silence is where their thoughts catch up to them. And those thoughts aren't always kind. Fake confidence usually forms early in life. Sometimes it begins with a child who was told they weren't enough. A child who learned that weakness invites harm. A child who watched people respect those who were bold, loud, fearless, and so they learned to play the role. Over time, the role becomes a shield. And the shield becomes a second skin. But here's the paradox that lies at the heart of this topic. People who fake confidence often aren't lying to others as much as they're lying to themselves. They want to be confident. They want to feel whole. They want to believe the version of themselves they project onto the world. And sometimes, fake confidence is the only bridge they can build between who they are and who they want to be. Yet beneath all of it, the swagger, the composure, the unbreakable posture, is a mind that is constantly negotiating with fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of inadequacy. Fear of being overlooked. Fear of being judged. Fear of being seen too clearly. Because the more someone pretends, the more terrified they become of being exposed. Confidence is loud, but fear whispers. Fear says, "What if they find out who you really are?" And that whisper can shake even the strongest facade. Psychologically, fake confidence shows up in many forms. One person might dominate every conversation, afraid that silence would reveal their insecurity. Another person might dress extravagantly, trying to impress not because they enjoy standing out, but because they're scared of blending in and being forgotten. Some hide behind achievements, degrees, awards, accomplishments, using them like badges that prove their worth. Others turn to perfectionism, terrified that even the smallest flaw will expose the truth. Some people become overly social, constantly surrounding themselves with noise and people so they never have to sit alone with their thoughts. Some people become competitive, not because they love winning, but because losing threatens their identity. And some people become the life of the party, the center of attention, not because they crave the spotlight, but because they're afraid of the darkness that comes when it fades. But perhaps the most misunderstood form of fake confidence is silence. Yes, silence. Some people pretend to be unbothered, aloof, distant. They shrug things off. They say they don't care. They act like nothing affects them. But beneath that cool exterior, they care more deeply than anyone realizes. Indifference becomes their mask. Stoicism becomes their escape. And pretending not to feel becomes their way of protecting themselves from feeling too much. Fake confidence is not always about deception. Sometimes it's about survival. Imagine walking through a world that tells you your fears make you weak, your insecurities make you undesirable, your doubts make you less worthy. What do? Most people don't become truly confident overnight. So they build armor, pieces of behavior that look like confidence from the outside, even if they feel fragile on the inside. And while some people judge them for this, the truth is, wearing armor is still a way of trying to grow. Because here's the strange thing, fake confidence can sometimes become real confidence, but only up to a point. Pretending can help you step into situations you're afraid of. Pretending can help you break old patterns. Pretending can give you enough momentum to expand your comfort zone little by little. But fake confidence becomes harmful when the mask becomes more important than the self behind it. It becomes harmful when someone stops growing and starts hiding. It becomes harmful when the need to appear confident traps them rather than frees them. It becomes harmful when vulnerability turns into shame rather than strength. The saddest part about people who fake confidence is that they often feel alone, even when surrounded by others. Because they know that the admiration they receive isn't for their real self, it's for the character they play. And so they carry a quiet loneliness that gnaws at them. They crave genuine connection, but fear that showing their true self would push people away. They want to be understood, but they never allow anyone close enough to understand them. In a world obsessed with being impressive, people forget that confidence doesn't mean being flawless. Confidence doesn't mean being loud. Confidence doesn't mean having all the answers, never trembling, never failing. Real confidence is softer. Real confidence is quieter. Real confidence is rooted in self-acceptance, not performance. The person who truly believes in themselves doesn't need to announce it. They move with a natural calmness. They speak with intention, not volume. They don't pretend, they simply exist as they are. Their power comes not from projection, but from presence. But the journey from fake confidence to real confidence is one of the hardest journeys a person can take. It requires stripping away layers of protection. It requires confronting fears they've buried for years. It requires trusting that they can be loved even when they're not performing strength. And here's the truth no one tells you, many people who fake confidence are much stronger than they think. Not because they hide their weaknesses, but because they carry them every single day while still trying, still showing up, still pushing forward. Pretending takes energy. Pretending takes courage. Pretending takes heart. Even if the confidence is fake, the effort behind it is very real.